Joining me now, Congresswoman Jackie Spear, Democrat from California. She just introduced a bill to combat sexual harassment in the House of Representatives. And the Washington Post's Dana Milbank, in his new column, is called Republicans Kiss Votes from Women Goodbye. Good title, Dana. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Hi, Reverend.
Congresswoman, let me go to you first. You said yesterday the House of Representatives is not a frat house. Why is your legislation so important, especially now?
Well, it's important because we have had a string of very embarrassing incidents where members of both sides of the aisle in the House have engaged in conduct unbefitting a member of Congress and violative of our own sexual harassment policies. The Senate already has a mandatory training program. I think it's high time that the House does the same and incorporates that so that both the members of the House and their staff know what is indeed sexual harassment, what's a hostile work environment, and the employees know exactly what they can do if they find that they are being harassed.
You know, Dana, in your column, you point out that in just the last few days, the top female senator was called emotional, and a conservative website photoshopped a picture of Congresswoman Pelosi twerking. But you write that these problems are made worse by GOP policies. Quote, the war on women accusations aren't made in a vacuum. They gain traction because of proposals Republicans are advancing.
Well, Reverend, the whole idea is these things that are happening wouldn't resonate, they would not stick if there weren't some sort of basis for why there is this gender gap among women, particularly among unmarried women. And it's not because Democrats are forcing votes that make Republicans uncomfortable in the Senate. It's not because of this congressman down in Louisiana. However, unfortunate it was time to part with this aide he'd been kissing on Equal Pay Day after paying her $300 to clean his office or some such. None of this would necessarily stick if it weren't also the week that we're in the House debating Paul Ryan's budget, which disproportionately hurts women. That's where the policy comes in. When you cut Medicaid, when you cut food stamps, SSI, WIC, these programs disproportionately benefit women, whereas programs that disproportionately benefit men, say benefits for veterans, for active duty military, are untouched in the Ryan budget. So the reason these things resonate, the reason there's a gender gap is not because of what any individual said, it's because of the underlying policies that are driving women away from the Republican Party.
And Congresswoman, part of that is the Ryan budget that disproportionately hurts women. It cuts from Medicaid, even though 70% of recipients are women. Same with food stamps, 63% of recipients are women. And with Pell Grants, 62% are women.
That's right, and I think Dana did a great job of highlighting that in his column today. I would say that there's almost a systematic effort now on behalf of my Republican colleagues to just cross women off their list. I mean, there's a very small number of women serving in the House that are Republicans, and I think they're maybe making a calculated decision. Well, we don't need them to retain the majority in the House, and so we're just going to make them fungible.
Now, Dana, and the outrageous comments being made. For example, a Missouri state lawmaker recently compared getting an abortion to buying a car or installing carpet. Take a listen.
There's a lot of things that I do putting into a decision, whether that's a car, whether that's a house, whether that's any major decision that I put in my life, even carpeting. I was just considering getting some carpeting or wood in my house. And that process probably took, a month, because just seeing all the aspects of it.
I mean, comparing getting an abortion to deciding on getting carpeting?
Yeah, it sounds like that's a good candidate for the sensitivity training the Congresswoman is proposing. Maybe she could get that over to him. You know, we can always find people, as you noted, in either party who are going to say something crazy or do something crazy. And I think you can't hold a party responsible for each individual thing. But it gets back to what's the underlying thing being done with the policy. Okay, so the Republicans have lost a number of people because of an abortion policy, particularly one that is without exceptions, because of recent questions about even the availability of birth control. These things do resonate, and it is possible that, indeed likely, the Republicans are in a very strong position in the House elections this November, regardless of the gender deficit that they have. But this is a much longer-term problem, and they can't ignore women in the long term without destroying the party.
Congresswoman, I have to ask you, how do you react to seeing abortion being compared to deciding on carpeting?
Well, you know, it made me think, I wonder how much time he thought about having sex with some first time he did it. I think it was a preposterous comparison. But I will say this. We know that when women succeed, America succeeds. We do know that when women serve on boards of directors of corporations, when women-owned businesses are allowed to participate in the process, that the bottom line is enhanced. And whether it's on a school board or a corporate board or your family board of directors, women do have a say, and we should make sure that their voices are being heard in the halls of Congress and in the halls at home.
Dana, you know, in the meantime, Republican or right-wing media has really twisted itself in the knots to defend the gender pay gap today. Listen.
Men lost jobs at 2.5 times the rate as women in this last recession. I know plenty of families where the man is now out of work and the woman is the one who's working full time, probably because she makes a little less. So she was able to keep her job.
So Dana, let me get this right. Now we then are to believe women making less is a good thing?
Hey, Reverend, last week I went to a forum at the Conservative Heritage Foundation, and they looked at this big problem the Republicans have, particularly among unmarried women, and they came up with the most unusual solution. They said more women should get married. So it's not the ideal that the Republicans need to appeal to this segment of the electorate. They need those women to change so that they can be more appealing to the Republicans.
How much of this Congresswoman is going to energize women to vote particularly against those candidates that represent things that are not in their economic interests?
Well, 7 million unmarried women did not vote in the last election. So I'm very confident, I think Democrats are very confident, if these unmarried women, independents or Democrats or Republicans, that they hear the message of all of us as Democrats wanting to promote women and make sure that women and families and children in this country have a fair shot at making it. I think they're going to be persuaded by our arguments. Why should food stamps be cut for children and families who are working at minimum wage when we're not cutting the program for farm subsidies, for that matter? There is a systematic effort underway now to marginalize women and children.
Congresswoman